Hey folks, Jack Wilkie here with another cultural breakdown. Sometimes I just see something happen in the culture that is so perfect for points that we talk about here on the Focus Press YouTube channel, on my site, jackwilkie.com, that I can't help but tie it into a cultural breakdown, and that kind of thing happened this week with Secretary of Defense, but Secretary of War. They have just changed the department, Pete Hegseth, and got all of the top generals together in the same room, calling them all in, and what I'm told is an incredibly rare occurrence, and gave them a speech about the changing standards, about the way they're going to change their way of operating here in the years to come, or starting now, but for the future of what America's military is going to look like. And so as he spoke, it's been kind of controversial. There's been a lot of reactions, but the way my brain works, writing on the Church Reset is the name of my site, the name of my book, church leadership, all of those kinds of things, I just can't help but see the parallels. I can't help but see that maybe he's fighting some of the same battles we are. Maybe he's making some institutional changes that we can learn from. And so I've pulled a couple of videos I want to watch here, look at what he had to say, look at some of the things that were controversial, but maybe why they shouldn't be, but also how this helps us kind of understand what we can do better as the church, but also what to expect when you do try and get things on the right track. And so let's look at a couple of these clips. The first one is him talking about raising the fitness standard of tests for everybody in the military, that over time those have kind of dropped down to, cast a broader net, let more people in, let more people qualify for combat roles and things like that. And he discusses the problem with that and what they're going to do instead. He's talking about this specifically as pertains to females. Now, of course, Hegseth was on a podcast before President Trump was elected and put Hegseth in this role, and he had said he doesn't believe in women in combat for a number of reasons. Of course, biblically, it's pretty hard to make a case for it. Deuteronomy 22:5, when it talks about women putting on the garments of men, the etymology there is kind of military garments. You can get from that, but also you just don't see it in the Old Testament. You look at the way men and women are wired. You look at even the big evolutionary psychology people that don't even believe in the Bible can tell you we're wired for different things, for combat, for the way we're built, things like that. It's not natural, and we can get that from the Bible itself. Having said that, Hegseth did not come out and say, all right, all women get out of the military. Here's what he did have to say.
Care if you're a man or a woman. Neither does the enemy. Nor does the weight of your rucksack, the size of an artillery round, or the body weight of a casualty on the battlefield who must be carried. This, and I want to be very clear about this, this is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it.
What I want to zero in on there is the so be it and the it is what it is. He talked about just not only that with the fitness tests and women qualifying for it, but he also talked about other kind of DEI initiatives in the military of filling quotas and promotions and things like that, that it's going to be meritocracy. If you can do the job, you can do the job. If you can't, you can't. And before people run in and, well, what about this? What about that? What does that mean about women losing these jobs, about other people and their promotions and things like that? That line is exactly right. So be it. It is what it is. When, again, the parallels I see to the church and really any organization, but we can take this for the church as that's my area of focus, you have to have your purpose, and that's what he talked about in the speech as well. This change from Department of Defense to Department of War is we need to be ready for war. We need to be able to do it well. We need to be prepared for it if it comes to our door. That's what we do. It's not just this nebulous, we'll defend our country if we, but no, it's preparedness. We have a purpose that is to protect our people, to help each other not get killed, to have qualified people in leadership, qualified people on the battlefield. The problem is that it becomes about anything but that. And that's his point with the DEI initiatives, with the fitness initiatives. Well, it's about getting as many people. No, it's not actually. It's in the same sense, I talk about this a lot. Jesus was never about let's get as many people into the church as possible. I mean, John 6, he turns away thousands of people because they wanted free bread and not the true Messiah. And so you come back to what is your purpose? And your purpose is, for the military, it's are we ready to defend our country? The purpose for the church is, are we pleasing God? Are we honoring Him in what we do? In all that we do as a church, are we leading people closer to Him? Are we building one another up? Are we reaching the lost? All of those things can fit under that umbrella of honoring to God. And we ask so many other questions. Well, what are people going to think about it? What is that going to do for the numbers? What is that going to do for the contribution? What is that? All of these other things, or well, so-and-so got mad about that, so maybe we should... You do what's right by God. You don't set out to upset people. You don't set out to drive people away, but you have to realize it's going to happen sometimes, and you have to have the attitude you just saw there. So be it. Why are they raising these standards? All the things he said. There's things that you have to be able to do in combat as part of this role, and if you're not fit for it, we're not going to lower the standard. Well, what have churches been doing for decades? The whole seeker-sensitive movement is lower the standard. Why do they say don't preach about issues and don't get into those things? Well, people might not like that. People might leave. Why do they say not challenge people? Why do we not do church discipline? Why all of these things that the Bible just clearly tells us to do, why do we not do them? Well, because of what people think. Well, so-and-so got mad. Well, this one elder's wife really kind of throws her weight around. Do the right thing. That more than anything else, I'm pulling my hair out, and I just talked to a minister friend today, talked to somebody else the other day. I run into this stuff all the time where the question is not what's the right thing. The question is not what is pleasing to God. It's what do I want? What do the people want? How do we feel about this? Do what's right by God. And again, that is not a cover to go treat people horribly. That is not a cover to say, well, I've got truth, so I can just hammer you over the head with it. No, you truth, love, all of those things, all of those are what's right by God. But when you have all of that nailed down, you say, we're going to do what's right by God, some people are going to leave. Some people are going to get mad. Some people are going to throw a temper tantrum, as we're going to look at here in a bit. So be it. You make the right decision. I could go on and on about this. I've dealt with it personally. I know a number of people. If you've been involved in trying to help a church grow and work towards pleasing God and all that, this is exactly what you run into, is every single question except what is honoring to God. Do it. Let God handle the details. So be it, as he says in that video. Let's take a look at another one. This one is about the leadership, and this kind of goes to the standards that we have and how we get there, and all that entails starts at the top, and that was one of the things he called this meeting to call out. If I can get it to play here.
It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service.
A very interesting one there about the standards for leadership, top to bottom, everybody. And he says it's something he's going to do, and this is a really important thing. Leadership is not asking anybody to do anything that they can't or won't do. That they're capable, they're leading people, because that's where you end up with this imbalance of people who are leading others who are more capable than them. And so, he talks about fat soldiers, fat leaders, and a lot of hand-wringing happened over that. How dare you call these guys in and call them that to their face? That's the tough love they need. You don't have the respect of your people if you are not disciplined enough to be prepared for the kind of things that we have to do, if you're not setting the example, if you're not leading by example. And so to bring this back to the church, that's why when you read Timothy and Titus, and Paul is so big on setting the example. 1 Timothy 4:12, of course, Paul saying, don't let anyone look down on your youthfulness, but in all of those categories, faith, conduct, speech, love, purity, an example of the believers, that you kind of need to be the guy that people look to. Where Paul later, elsewhere in Corinthians could say, imitate me as I imitate Christ. A leader has to be able to do that, to be able to say, follow me, and if you follow my footsteps, I'll get you to where you need to be. And they can't do that. What he's pointing out here about the military leaders is you're expecting things of the people below you that you won't even do, and you lose their respect for that. That is a problem. And he's exactly right. No matter how much people want to throw a fit about it, it's true. And so you get into these things about what is required of leadership, and some of the, honestly, probably two of the biggest things I've gotten pushback against in writing and podcasting in the couple of recent years is elder standards, elder qualifications, saying, hey, elders really need to be on top of their game, including having faithful children. People get really mad about that, and they'll want to debate and push back of, well, how many does he have to have? If he has one faithful kid and 3 fall away, well, then he has a believing kid. Well, if they believed while he's at home, but while they were at home, but then when they leave his house, they fall away, that's not his fault. Well, if he has 3 kids and 2 of them are faithful, that counts. How about he needs to raise a family that believes in Christ, they're walking the Christian path, because he's leading people to do what he is able to do, right? He's setting the example for these people. The other one that really set some people off was talking about minister fitness standards. And as somebody, you can look me up, I mean, you Google me online, you can see that was a thing for me for a long time, and realizing the importance of it, of getting in shape and being at a healthier weight and watching what you eat and things like that. That matters. And when you talk about that, people scoff, people laugh at it, people roll their eyes. It is what it is. There's the message that the ears hear, and there's the message that the eyes see. And if you're preaching on self-control, if you're preaching on leadership, if you're preaching on all kinds of things that we need to do, yeah, that matters. And so when Hegseth is calling that out, like, man, that's not the only place we need to be saying these things. That this is you lose some of the respect of your people when that happens. And so, again, leadership has to set the standard. It's not just in weight. It's in all these things. You have to be up here and calling people to come up here. If you're not, how are you going to lead them? And not in an I'm better than you kind of way, but there's a reason when you get into those 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1 elder qualifications, above reproach. Essentially, this guy is the shining example of what the church, what a Christian should look like, what the church has developed among its men. It shouldn't just be another guy. It shouldn't be a guy that's been there a while. It should be a guy that hits all of those lofty qualifications. But when we lower the bar, we get away from that. Well, why do we lower the bar? Because, again, going back to the first point, we've gotten away from our primary purpose, which is leading people to Christ, but more than anything, honoring God, doing what's right by God. When we get that right, these things make a lot more sense. We stop quibbling over the details. Well, how many faithful kids does he need to have? No, let's get it down and just say, hey, this is really serious. Because another thing he said is it's about people dying if we don't do these things right. And so let's look at one more clip from the speech here.
This means at the War Department, first and foremost, we must restore a ruthless, dispassionate, and common sense application of standards. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men, or troops who are not fully proficient on their assigned weapons, platform, or task, or under a leader who was the first, but not the best. Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards. They're just suggestions. Suggestions that get our sons and daughters killed.
The real takeaway there is, again, the central purpose. What are we here to do? But the other side, this is high stakes. This matters. When we talk about the things I just brought up, the people get mad about, the minister's ability to lead, the elders and their qualifications and things like that, we're talking about souls on the line. And he talks about his own son there. We're talking about our children. And we're multiple generations into losing over half of the kids that grow up in the church. And then people roll their eyes when I talk about things like this. People roll their eyes when you get serious about raising the bar and saying, hey, we've got to do better. We've got to really call our people to get serious about their faith and not be Sunday morning only people, not be box checking people, not be the kind of people who just do what they want and give what they want to church and that's good enough. No, souls are at stake here if we don't get this right. If we don't ask ourselves, what does God want from us? What is pleasing to God? What would the Bible have us do? Raise that standard. Keep that standard high. And if people get mad about the standard, go back to that first video. So be it. The standard has to be the standard. And lazy Christians, consumer Christians that just come for what the church can give them, that say, I want to give the church what I want to give. People that view the church kind of like a timeshare. Oh, well, yeah, I like to be part of that and that and that. The rest, I'm out of here. Not my responsibility. I don't have to clean the place. I don't have any obligation to repair anything. I'm just here for the part that I paid for, the part that I want. No, we have to get away from those kinds of things. Raise that standard back to where it is. But having said all of that, we need to look at the response to his speech. And so I've got a few quotes pulled up here from people, military people, others. This is in a post by The Guardian. Naveed Shah, a veteran and activist, responded by saying, a lot of the words that are coming to me aren't fit to print. The people in that room who have served for 20, 30 plus years in uniform do not need Pete Hegseth to tell them about warrior ethos. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. If that lack of fitness, if the standards keep being dumbed down. I mean, we saw things during the Biden administration about LGBT stuff going on in the military and military people in their, playing out their sexual fetishes in uniform and things like that. I mean, like, it's gone off the rails. It is not a serious organization. Again, the same thing I would say about the church. All these things that we're talking about, it's not a serious organization. Well, it needs to be serious. And so I can't believe he got that. I'm just really mad about that. The words coming to me aren't fit to print. Deal with it. And the other thing is that a bunch of these kind of posts went out quoting people like this. Get ready for that. That's going to happen when you raise a standard. People are going to throw a fit. That tells you you're doing something right. Another said, certainly addressing the troops could be useful or beneficial, but to call 800 plus generals and senior enlisted advisors from around the world into this room just before a government shutdown, it's not just bad optics or strategy, Shaw said. A bad cold could have threatened our entire chain of command. Again, this is another thing I've dealt with in the church. The most ridiculous excuses start getting thrown. Well, if somebody came in there with a cold, then the entire military would have been cold, then China would have realized that everybody's at home coughing, and they would have... What are we even doing, man? We need to roll our eyes and just move on. Say, no, man, we're not doing this. Are you serious? But that's the kind of people that immediately show up to give quotes after a speech like this to say, well, man, if somebody got a cold, he called all those people in. It's bad optics. It just looks bad. Man, if I had a dime for every time I've run into the tone police, well, you said what you said, but I don't like the way you said it. Toughen up a little bit. Another said, Pittard said it was well within the authority of a defense secretary to call a meeting of generals, but that the display was egotistical and a waste of resources. Saying, hey, we're going to raise the standards and I'm not calling you to do anything that I'm not going to do. How is that egotistical? Again, you're going to get these things every time. You think you're better than me. This is ridiculous. Think about what could happen, like a bad cold. I've seen this playbook so many times in churches. In any time you're trying to move something in a good direction, some people, you see it with Nehemiah building the wall, and people just come out throwing things. You see it with Israel and with the wilderness wandering, throwing excuse after excuse after excuse. It's just something you have to deal with. The problem is people who are kind of neutral on it get swayed by this stuff. Well, that was kind of mean. He did say fat generals. He is raising the standard, and we might lose some female soldiers, so yeah, maybe he shouldn't. Get back to the question. Is it right? Is it right for our military to have uniform standards? Yeah. Is it right for leaders to live up to the standards? Yeah. Same thing in the church. Is it right to do these things? If it's right by the word, that's what we're going to do. And then a couple others, as they got military women to weigh in on it. He claimed the military needs to return to the male standard in combat jobs of 1990, but here's the truth. There has never been a separate male and female standard, she wrote on Instagram. When women entered combat roles, one standard was set, and we've been meeting it ever since. You can either do the job or you can't, period. Another textbook one from the playbook, missing the point. Yeah, there was one standard set. They lowered the standard, and now you got all these unfit people in there. There is now a new standard. Meet it. Meet the one that everybody had to meet before that first standard. So many times you go back to a truth that was always there and that had been compromised, and people act like you're pulling some radical thing. No, we're just going back to what it should be and always should have been. But again, another textbook move that people have is to misunderstand the point, to twist the words, things like that. It just doesn't work. And then Tamara Stevens, another one, she found Hegseth's discussion of lethality more alarming than anything else. It's the military. Anyway, basically, he's saying that we're no better than Hamas because people are joining because they want to break things and they want to kill people, she said. I mean, for anyone that's been in the military, he's not qualified to be Secretary of Defense. He's barely qualified to be a host on Fox News. But to say these things in front of the preeminent generals and admirals leading our military, has he no honor to say that we don't belong in polite society? Maybe he doesn't. Again, tone policing like you wouldn't believe in that one. He's not qualified. Well, he's not qualified. But is what he said right? Should we have standards? Should everyone meet the standards? Should they be uniformly applied? Should we care about doing our job so that people within and without a military don't get killed outside, don't get killed by enemies? Yeah, I think that's okay to say. But people lose that framing. People are very, it's kind of like if you ever saw Up, the Pixar movie, Squirrel, they're so easily distracted. Just over here, oh, hey, that was mean. Yeah, that was kind of mean. Now you're not thinking about the point anymore. I can't tell you how many church leadership meetings I've been where the exact same thing happens. Somebody throws out one of those distraction things. Yeah, he did say that kind of weird. What are we even talking about here? Is it right by God to do the things we're talking about doing, or is it not? We lose our purpose. We lose our way. We lose our ability to do the things that we're supposed to do. The only way back is, number one, to ask what is the right thing to do and how do we get there, and number two, not care about the people who are going to try and get in your way and throw out stumbling blocks and lay down in front of getting this ball rolling in the direction it should. I'm sorry. That's always going to happen, and if you don't have the spine, if you don't have the strength to overcome some of that institutional resistance, bad things are going to keep happening. And so, again, as he said, lives are at stake with the military. More importantly, in the church, souls are at stake. And hurting somebody's feelings, some of the topics we talk about feminism, about training kids up and education and helping them have a Christian worldview, things like that. Man, the hand-wringing, the screeching, the pushback we get. But we have to have these conversations. Are our souls dying or not? Are we losing half of our kids or not? Then let's get serious about it. And if you're in leadership, you've got to have this determination. If you're not, or if you're alongside somebody who's doing that, it's on you to not be the tone police, to not be the person who gets distracted by all the little things somebody will throw out. It's on you to remember the question I have to ask is, what is pleasing to God? We lose that so many times, and when we lose that, we lose everything. That's why we end up where we end up. That's how you end up with a military that is a joke, and that's how you end up with a church that is in decline and culturally has zero impact and all of the things that we're dealing with. This is how you roll that ball back, is say the things that need to be said, set standards, don't let people throw you off course when they throw their fits. If we can't do that, we're going to keep having problems, and it's going to get worse. So I can go on and on about this. It's a passion point of mine. I'm not doing the should Christians serve in the military thing. Like, that's a whole other video. I'm not doing I think Hegseth is the greatest. I just really like the speech because it's about staying on purpose and getting back to why you're doing what you're doing. And we need to learn that lesson over and over and over until we get it right. So that's all for this week's Cultural Breakdown. You can catch these on the Church Reset podcast. If you don't like watching the videos, or the YouTube channel is Focus Press, make sure you're subscribed, get notifications, all of that stuff. And follow me. You can get these, everything I put out really goes out via the Church Reset podcast and jackwilkie.com. You can get the articles, get the videos like this, everything else I've been up to, chapter previews from my new book. And lots of work going on here at Focus Press, lots of work going on my site. So be sure you're following on all those platforms, and let me know what you think in the comments. If there were maybe other examples you've seen in the church, things that we need to be talking about that people are against. Maybe if you've experienced some of these things, I'd love to hear from you. But I'll be sure to hop on. I've got another one loaded up I'm going to talk about next week about the church and its influence in the culture. So be looking out for that, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.